Hi there, everyone. Today we're going to share some of the key topics the Document Lifecycle Evangelist team at Latera Microsystems has heard and learned about in 2018. Oops. Uh, my name is Chuck Henrich, and I'm a Document Lifecycle Evangelist at Latera Microsystems. I've been working in legal IT for over 35 years, helping business users understand how technology can help and helping technologists understand business users' needs. I focused on developing solutions across the whole document lifecycle from first draft to final delivery, creating, checking, and collaborating. I'd like to introduce you to the lovely document lifecycle evangelist team at Latera Microsystems. This team was formed at the beginning of this year when Latera Microsystems came together. Matt James, Sherry Capel, Simon Dandy, and I have over 100 years combined experience working with professional services firms and their users. Throughout our careers, we've worked inside law firms as well as consulted with them all over the world. The evangelist team at Latera Microsystems meets with technologists and business users in all sorts of organizations, spreading the good word about the great products and services we offer, and just as importantly, starting conversations and building networks among people and firms to share knowledge, insights, and common challenges. We speak at conferences and roadshow sessions, host webinars, attend industry events, and work with customers on a consulting basis. Over the past year, we've met with hundreds of firms and many more people working in legal technology, and some common themes have emerged. So today we'd like to share some of them as things to think about for 2019. Innovation and changing technology environments, of course, affect all of us, technology providers and consumers alike. Whether in-house or in the cloud, consolidating relationships with vendors is becoming increasingly important to manage change more efficiently. In addition to greater comfort with and adoption of cloud services, PDF continues its spread as a working file format, primarily at the end stages of a document lifecycle. Ever greater pressures to deliver faster, better, more, bumping up against a changing workforce, are raising awareness of how stress and culture can adversely affect quality of service as well as quality of life. Scandals, data breaches, the GDPR, and the spread of similar legislation in a number of countries have raised privacy concerns for all of us as individuals, and also any organization that handles personal data or confidential client data. Artificial intelligence is just one of the concepts that enjoyed a hype cycle this year, raising hopes and concerns in equal measure. Innovation teams are appearing across all professional services industries. One customer told us that last year they had one person with the word innovation in their job title. This year, they have 22. At this summer's ILTA conference, almost 50 people attended with innovation in their job title, whereas last year there were 6. These new innovation teams are charged with discovering and driving improvements in service delivery to clients. Firms are paying increasing attention to aligning business strategies to effective results. And that involves better understanding their business users, how they work, and what they need to accomplish. Firms are focusing less on product features when looking at tech investment, and instead they're focusing on deliver better service and value with the same technical and people resources, using technology more intelligently. Along with innovation teams on the IT side, some firms are hiring professionals with a technology focus, whose mission is to identify efficiencies from a fresh perspective. For example, firms have started bringing in summer associates with a brief to spend a significant percentage of their time learning the firm's processes, to question things, and then make recommendations about new, different approaches. These outsiders aren't invested in the status quo, and they're motivated to question the way things are, which can be difficult for people who are already established in a firm and don't want to rock the boat. Innovation specialists need to be technically knowledgeable, understand the practice and business of law, and also work closely together, not just with business users and vendors, but they also need to integrate closely with the IT team so that they can influence the IT roadmap. They can also help polish IT staff to grow into greater poise when engaging with business users and stakeholders. From the IT side, customers are asking for ever greater ease of use, streamlined user experiences, and simpler tools around templates and precedents so practice groups and business users can build their own document automation without relying on limited IT resources. Coordinating subject matter experts with IT engineers causes bottlenecks when trying to align available time slots, and that generates friction and slows down development while sucking up scarce IT bandwidth. So IT teams are looking for easier to use document automation that doesn't require programming expertise, enabling citizen developers and users to, for example, create their own templates, precedents, and pleadings. Firms can facilitate that citizen developer model with intelligently designed integrated tools that require little or no programming. Those tools exist, by the way. Ask us to learn more. Many users expect that tech should just work out of the box with a similar ease of use as they find on their relatively simple phone apps. While that's an unrealistic expectation, because professional content or creation, checking, and collaborating isn't the same as booking a ride on an app, there's a lot for software vendors to learn about simplifying the user experience to reduce clicks, transitions, and the friction of switching from frames of reference. Here's some good rules of thumb, by the way. Use functional terms, organize interfaces along the same lines as users' workflows, and reduce the number of buttons and options on any one screen. Built-in ease of use requires intimate knowledge and engagement with end users, understanding the specifics of what they need to do, when and where they need to do it. It's important to work with vendors who have talent in-house who've done the jobs they're trying to automate. So work with a consultant or vendor who has a deep understanding because they've done it. They can use that knowledge and also their empathy to craft solutions that minimize the work an end user has to do because the automation embeds real-world expertise. Traditionally, firms look at how much revenue a partner brings in rather than cost versus revenue. If profitability isn't an obvious concern, then productivity isn't either. The challenge is identifying when the effort spent outweighs the revenue earned. It's an important consideration. If someone brought in 100 grand but spent 100 grand getting there because they didn't leverage automation effectively, was that an effective use of time? Could they have spent less time and effort bringing in that same revenue with integrated, coordinated automation? Built-in usage tracking provides important data that helps firms analyze the business of delivering legal services to their clients, comparing profitability of one fee earner to another, for example. If partner A is using automation and delivering higher profitability than partner B who isn't, that helps the firm identify how they can help partner B deliver better with better use of technology. Some firms feel that because they have an established relationship with their clients, then their clients don't care so much about cost effectiveness. But what happens to that relationship if a client wises up to being billed for inefficient service? Lawyer-client relationships are very sticky, like people's relationships with their doctors or banks. But sticky isn't unbreakable. If a client feels they've been charged more than they should, that can open them up to the lure of another firm that delivers the same results or better, but more cheaply. Most work is commodity work, and if you deliver commodity work with better quality more quickly and cheaply, that strengthens the client-firm relationship and protects against poaching. We're hearing less and less about document processing specialists. DP units are being absorbed into the general support pool because sophisticated document technology is more distributed and easier to use. So end users are more empowered than they used to be. That's also driving increasing self-service and making technology easier to administer. We're seeing increasing support to professional ratios from 1 secretary for 2 to 3 professionals to 1 to 5 to 6, or even no assigned secretaries. However, reducing specialist support staff causes pain points to appear because the experts have disappeared and the tasks the specialists used to do are surfacing for end users. Whether support reductions are driven by cost cutting or just a perception that document specialists aren't necessary anymore, It's better to work with a vendor who can help identify the pain points before they hit the business and also deliver solutions that resolve those pain points effectively because they have solutions that evolved from a knowledge of what document specialists do and what content generators need. Microsoft is leading the continuous updates charge, and now DMS vendors are following, enabling auto updates by default, like you just saw. NetDocuments, for example, delivers continuous updates on their platform so all customers and users are always up to date. iManage has announced that with version 10.2, they're moving to continuous updates as well. However, they point out that they check for add-ins first. That's an important indication that platform vendors are increasingly recognizing the importance of not breaking other vendors' add-ins to their ecosystems. So that's great from the Windows or Office or DMS side, keeping all of their users up to date all the time. But keeping up with that from a training and compatibility point of view is challenging. IT departments are having to focus more time and attention on testing and training and troubleshooting. Also, a number of vendors have mentioned that they're having trouble keeping up with other vendors' continuous updates. Continuous updates highlights how working with a single vendor for desktop applications benefits customers because there are fewer vendors to work with and hold accountable. And a single vendor will have a unified, coordinated approach to integrations, for example, with Windows or Office or a DMS. Regarding the cloud, clients, particularly financial services, are increasingly asking law firms to store client content with trusted cloud providers. That's because the clients trust the cloud more than they trust their law firm's on-premises systems, because those clients have already validated the cloud provider's security, making audits much easier. That's true with one key exception. Clients are saying that they trust their law firms more than cloud providers for the most scary data. Top-tier professional services firms doing high-end, bet-the-company type work who have invested heavily in in-house security still need to maintain their in-house hosting capabilities. Many vendors don't truly understand how business users like lawyers actually work. Also, many firms are expressing increasing frustration that they have a fragmented collection of endpoint solutions where often conflicting technologies don't play well together. People expect user experiences to be obvious and integrated at point of use, lowering the learning curve. IT teams know they need to serve their users and clients better with different applications. Reducing the variety of user experiences around consolidated, coordinated automation helps reduce training and learning and the time and attention it takes to switch between frames of reference. Change involves training. So IT teams are asking, how do we encourage users to spend a little time now to get up to speed with something new that will prove easier and more effective in the long run? People are under pressure. They don't feel they have the time or attention to spare when a learning curve inevitably slows them down. Here again, it's important to work with a vendor who has in-house experience working closely with business users, who has the real-world expertise to advise on minimizing or eliminating learning curves with intelligently designed, coordinated automation. PDF continues its infiltration of the document lifecycle, whether editing PDF content, converting to Word, redacting, or its increasing use as a final version format. Even as an end result file, people still need to tweak PDFs, sign them, merge them, split them, manage them. Working with PDFs as an integrated part of the workflow isn't new, but the increasing spread throughout the document lifecycle is. One example. Reusing archived scanned documents as new or revived production documents involves converting a scanned document, an image-only PDF, into a usable Word document quickly without sending it to a document production specialist who might not be there anymore. In the past, that required a number of convoluted steps, relying on OCR that might deliver problematic results, requiring a lot of detailed review. Now, however, available tools are much more accurate and the output is much more usable. For example, Phantom PDF for Business automatically recognizes when a scanned PDF needs OCR when you open it, enables quick OCR to an editable format, and then easy saving to native Word DOCX with just a couple of clicks. So lawyers, secretaries, etc. can perform the conversion quickly and easily themselves with a high confidence that the end result will be immediately usable. We're hearing more and more from lawyers who've moved to firms with less pressure and usually less income for a better quality of life. A number of firms are finding it increasingly difficult to acquire new talent. Even offering $190,000 to start, they're finding that people won't sign up for the stress and associated health and relationship problems. That's in addition to narrowing partner tracks, where a big payoff becomes less and less likely as a reward for sacrificing X number of years to high demand, high stress life. Many firms are starting to look at their expectations versus the tools they're providing. One firm, for example, has implemented a concierge service, in part to reduce the stress of taking care of day-to-day personal business. But of course, the true incentive for that kind of perk is like with any tech firm, keeping people in the building focused on generating profit for the firm. Clients are also increasingly questioning the problems that can arise from a too hard-driving culture. If your firm is top-tier, bespoke, premium, but the lawyers are stressed and time-pressed, they're more likely to make mistakes, and mistakes are hard to justify to a client when you're asking top dollar. Technology can help with productivity, but it can't fix culture. It might not reduce billable hour requirements, but it can reduce the stress and friction involved in meeting those hours, as well as helping and identifying quality issues. Scandals around data and misuse have hit the headlines repeatedly this year with increasingly worrisome severity and impact. Facebook, Cambridge Analytica, social media, and election interference, and so on. The European Union's GDPR and similar legislation in other jurisdictions continue to focus our attention on how privacy has been commoditized and misused. Greater attention is coming into focus around data governance and unknown leaks built into platforms and the applications that we use. For example, a couple of weeks ago, Dutch investigators revealed that Microsoft, by default, has been siphoning up email subject lines and document content as part of their continuing improvement efforts. And that has the very unfortunate side effect of taking client confidential information without explicit permission. The continuous update culture contributes to these data leaks and security breaches, often changing the game and impacting on privacy settings without notice. So, it's imperative to work with vendors who give clear and complete assurances about what data they need in order to provide services and how they anonymize and secure it, how long they keep it, in short, how they comply with the GDPR, as well as best practice data governance. And it's important to continually test them to make sure they keep their promises. Last but not least, AI. Artificial intelligence enjoyed a hype cycle this year. There was lots of talk about how AI is going to take over the world, put professionals out of a job, etc. The reality is that there's very little actual artificial intelligence available in the market, and it's certainly not a quick win or quick to value. It needs lots of training, lots of resources. It can be very expensive. There's been a lot of fantasy, smoke and mirrors, unrealized promises, and the concept has been mostly confused with machine learning. Now, more people are more sensitive to jargon generally, and they're more sophisticated in response to it. Still, machine learning is most definitely a technology that's increasingly entering production. There's a difference between artificial intelligence and machine learning, for example. There's a lot to think about and talk about regarding AI and machine learning, promising technologies, business cases, caveats. We at the Evangelist team are going to be hosting a webinar panel discussion on all of this on the 10th of January, and we hope that you'll join us for that. The Latera Microsystems Document Lifecycle Evangelist team will continue with roadshow events in 2019. Please get in touch to learn more, and please let us know if you have any topics you'd like to cover. We're looking forward to meeting you in person or online next year. Have a relaxing holiday season and Happy New Year, everyone. Are there any questions?
Awesome. Thanks, Chuck. Let me check the questions area. And it should go without saying, if you still have questions, by all means, throw those in. Got a couple here we'll get through. Let's see. First one comes from Allison, and she's asking, you mentioned coordination automation. What do you mean by that?
Coordinated automation is different applications that have been designed to work together. So we're all familiar with add-ins, for example, because we have them from separate vendors. And they slot into Microsoft Office applications, for example, and do their thing. But they're standalone endpoints. They're not designed to work with other add-ins, and frequently you end up with add-in conflicts. We've all experienced that, I think, if we're technologists and supporting users on the desktop. Coordinating your add-ins is much easier if you're working as a single vendor, but it's important because it reduces the risk of add-in conflicts, and it increases the possibility that you're going to simplify the user experience because the add-ins are designed to work together. They're designed to coordinate. So as an example, what we did at Latera Microsystems toward the end of 2017 was to devise the Latera desktop concept, where we take all of our applications, all of our solutions, and meld them together so that they work together in a typical document lifecycle workflow. And we even came up with the concept of Latera desktop as a single ribbon tab, for example. That's something that you can do with your other vendors' add-ins as well. Work with the vendors to help them understand, right, this add-in is doing this, that add-in is doing that. We want them to work together. Can you guys talk to each other? One of the things that I used to do in my previous work as a product manager was when there were add-in conflicts, we would proactively contact the other vendor and say, right, we're having a problem. We have a mutual customer. How can we resolve this for our mutual customer so that the customer doesn't get caught in a point the finger, blame the victim situation? So we would work with the other vendor to take a look at what they were doing versus what we were doing and find ways to work better together. And often we were helping other vendors find bugs in their applications. That can work. You have to have vendors who are willing to do that. If you're working with a single vendor who has a single unified approach, it's much easier to do because they have a much better visibility on their own code and they can solve those problems much more easily. And there isn't also the issue around protecting turf and protecting reputation between vendors. They don't point the finger at each other. So when I talk about coordinated automation, I'm talking about add-ins and other applications that are designed to work together in a single workflow. But that also requires a vendor or vendors who understand the workflow, who have done it themselves, or who have worked with end users or IT departments or law firms for many years on a consulting basis, for example, helping the IT departments understand what business users need and helping business users understand what technology can do. So a lot goes into the ability for a vendor to offer a unified vision of technology, for instance, around the document lifecycle workflow, and then to execute on that with a collection of applications that can work on their own, but also work together.
Oh, that's an excellent overview of coordinated automation. So let's see, one more question I think we'll have time for. This one comes from John. John is asking, can you give an example of how usage data can help identify people or processes that need help with technology?
Okay, yeah. I'm thinking about an incident I saw during this past year where we had a customer who was using Contract Companion, and Contract Companion has some built-in usage tracking. So we looked at the patterns. We weren't just looking at the raw number of uses where people run the application. We were looking at who they are, when they were using it, not just calendar days, but time of day, and starting to correlate that with what they were doing at the time, what projects they were working on. Looking specifically at people who were not using it, but we thought should. And then we were able to go to them and say, right, okay, we noticed that you dipped into this application, but you didn't continue to use it. Why is that? And that gave us information about how to better help the user understand where the application could fit into their workflow. For instance, sometimes there would just be a simple misunderstanding. They looked at the name of the application called Contract Companion, and they said, well, I don't do contracts, so this is of no use to me. Well, in fact, the application Contract Companion works for anybody who's working in documents, but the user got hung up on that word contract. So it's easy to, for instance, configure Contract Companion not to display the word contract, instead to use a functional name for that task pane that helps the user understand this is really about document analysis. This is about checking for quality. This is about helping you automatically fix problems that you weren't even aware of, because we've all had that experience where you're reading a document and you just literally don't see punctuation problems or problems with cross references not being automatically updated or whatever. So simply taking a look at who was using and who was not using that application helped us and our customer firm tweak the configuration of the application to make it more obvious for users that, yes, this is a tool that will help you. Don't get hung up on that terminology. One thing about usage tracking and usage statistics, I think I mentioned it just now, but I think it bears repeating. It's not just about raw numbers, it's about patterns. So if you have usage tracking that identifies not just the number of times something was executed, but when it was executed, how many times, and at what times of day even, that can be really helpful information in terms, or to help you zero in on who needs help understanding this application, and also finding out who's using it a lot and getting better information about why they like something. It's not just about the problems, it's also about the successes. Go to people who are succeeding in using an application to get a better idea about what they find useful. You can use that in your training for other users, and you can also feed that back to the vendor to give them some positive information, as well as the enhancement requests you might come up with from users who are confused or need help understanding the application.
Awesome. Chuck, thanks so much for fielding the questions. I know there was a couple we didn't get to, and we can follow up directly after the webinar. But thank you again, Chuck, for an awesome presentation. And I want to thank everyone for joining us. This is our last webinar series for the year. We're going to be coming back in January. The first one in the new year will be focused on industry insights, specifically how AI is transforming the legal industry and how it also isn't. That'll be on January 10th, same time as today. And then that actually will be facilitated by a cross-section of the team that Chuck showed earlier. That'll be Chuck, Matt, and Sherry, all from our evangelist team. So it should be an awesome discussion. If you'd like to sign up for that, you can see that webinar as well as many others listed on litera.com/webinars. Thanks again, and have a great holiday season, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.